All right, I think we are ready to get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our panel discussion on the future of digital asset ownership. I am joined by a fantastic panel. We were regrouping in the green room right before this. There were quite a few giggles, a few high fives, and moments of, wait a second, I've met so-and-so on XYZ stage in Los Angeles. So because we only have 25 minutes today, I'll take the liberty to very quickly introduce my fellow panelists, and then we'll dive straight into the discussion. So on my left, I have Diana. She's very heavily involved in the NFT space through the World of Women program, where she's responsible for the partnerships division. As a fun fact that I learned today, she used to be a competitive swimmer. So if you have any questions around holding your breath underwater and copious quantities of hair products, please go ask her. And to my left, I have the famous Scott, who you may have seen performing yesterday. He is best known for his role as the saxophonist in Pink Floyd, and has a brand new product and company and platform launching today that I will get him to speak about. It's very exciting and topical to what we're discussing today on the panel. To my right, I have Tiff, and she's involved with Ava and is responsible for growth and NFTs. Fun fact, she's involved in running the Taipei Blockchain Week and is heavily involved in Muay Thai. And to my furthest right, we have Stas, who is bringing the artist perspective to the table. He is actually building the first fully dedicated NFT gallery in Canada, and it's going to be launching here in Toronto in September. So I really encourage all of you to come and show him some love and attend. And then I'm Eliana. I work in the corporate world, representing all things large enterprise and helping get them into where the world is going. So for today's discussion, we know that NFTs have had a wild ride over the past few years. And so we wanted to address the elephant in the room, which is often the question of, are NFTs still a thing? Did they meet the promises that we were all really excited about a couple of years ago? And let's just address head on any of the concerns that people often have about this space. Why don't I start with maybe Diana?
Hello. Yeah, so for those who are not familiar with World of Women, we are the leading mission-led standing for inclusion in Web3. In just 2 short years, we have a growing support of over 400,000, and we also had a revenue of $350 million from the sales. And our community includes creators like Reese Witherspoon, Sofia Vergara, and also I see fellow community members Jonathan and Tracy right there. So it's really nice to see all of you here. Yeah. So to answer your question about whether or not we delivered the promises, I think we did, and even more. We've delivered events, just like a concert with Madonna at NFT NYC last year. And we have a tentpole event for Gala where we celebrate our community and also an opportunity for our partners and community members to all connect. And we have even more partnerships coming up, like FC Barcelona, MasterCard, Johnny Walker, and many more.
So if ever we want insight on the fun places to go and the people to meet, we have to go talk to you.
Absolutely.
Anything that you'd want to add to this discussion of NFTs? Are they still a thing? Is there anything that we need to address to clear the air today?
Who are you speaking to? Any of us?
Any of you. We can have a dialogue.
I'll throw my 2 cents in. Yes, it did live up to the promise depending on how you look at it. It ignited the industry. It's been the same every time. I've been through Web 0, Web 1, Web 2, and now Web 3. And they all start like this. There's all the hype. You remember pets.com? Whoa, it was the biggest thing. But what came out of that, and right now, this is where the building is coming on right now. I tell you, I'm in this space now in the NFT space for about 3.5 years. And I'm telling you, the builders are not stopping because we realize this is not a JPEG. NFTs are so much more, and we could get into that discussion. But yes, I think it's on the promise. I think so many of the hypes of all these PFPs and all these things, great vision, great ideas, but at the end of the day, when you make all these promises, it's very hard to keep under this infrastructure because it's so complex to manage. So yes and no. Obviously, what is it, 98% of all these PFP projects go to zero? There's a reason for that, but I think a lot of those problems are starting to get solved. It's cleaned out the chaff. Now we're starting to grow again. So it depends on how you look at that word. It's definitely ignited, because you look at people ignited this industry. We're in the game now. And now we're starting to really look and learn about what's really powerful about NFTs. And I believe it's one of the most powerful technologies that can basically help the underserved, the people. It's the people's movement. It represents freedom. And I think these are really important. And I'm glad to see all you people here, because we must take back the power of the currency and the direct-to-consumer model, basically take control of our lives again, because they're trying to centralize us on things that will take all our freedoms away. So we want to stay free. So NFTs, I love you.
So speaking of the end consumer and the end creator, I'm really pleased that we have a couple of folks here who are involved very closely, working directly with artists. I think it would be great for the audience to hear a few examples of how are artists using NFTs, tapping into this digital ownership trend to fundamentally transform the way that they work, given that that was one of the major premises of the NFT movement coming up. Who wants to jump in?
Yeah, hi. So yes, I think I agree with what Scott was saying. Like, the NFT is so much beyond the PFPs and what the early days were. And on the artist side, I think it did definitely deliver very important promise of NFTs, and the core value that it added to the internet is the ability to create and own unique digital assets. And for artists specifically, is the ability to establish the provenance of their art, especially the digital artists who before that did not have this ability, right, like traditional artists did, and because anyone can copy the file, where is the original? There is no original, right, once it's in the wild. But now there is an original, it's on blockchain, it's minted and certified by the artist. Of course, there is still a lot of work to do. Like, the other big thing for artists that NFTs promised is ability to capitalize on the value of your art growing over time, right? Where you can make royalties from every resale. And we've had problems with that with platforms like Blur coming in, and because it's not technically enforced, just doing away with royalties, like, hey, on our platform you can have 0 royalties, and that affected the artists negatively. And so there is still work to do to address those challenges. And another big one is IP. There's still some work to do on standardizing how the IP works for digital art, but overall I think definitely huge progress. The rate of progress is incredible, and I think the artists will definitely keep benefiting from the technology going forward.
And then adding to that, with Avalanche, we've been working with over 60 artists over the past year, and they've realized that their art form, they have to not only create art, but learn how to market their art. And NFTs allows them to reach a wider audience, an international audience, and be able to use the technology to further fan engagement in different ways. So I think that technology is still being built today, and we finally see mature projects in the ecosystem that can support that as they grow and get more attention through NFTs and their traditional artworks.
When you talk about marketing for artists, can you maybe give a couple of examples of the new innovations that you're seeing? And then Scott, I'll let you jump in as well.
Yeah, so now there is a lot of certification of authentication for artworks. There are in the ecosystem a lot of digital options that artists can use if they want to, let's say, create a digital product, have an NFT attached to it. And after the initial sale, they'll still be able to push notifications, further fan engagement, loyalties afterwards. So I think there's just so many different projects now on all chains trying to figure out how to push past the first initial sale.
What was the question again?
Artists are great at creating art, but marketing is not necessarily
Yeah.
their forte.
All right, well, it depends on the type of artist. Always have visual artists, we have musical artists, there's athletes are considered artists, so it really just depends. What we're seeing is, the thing about this is, let's use a musician for example. You can't sell music anymore. There's nowhere to sell music. Where am I going to sell it? I can't download it. I can't make money. I have no CDs. Streaming business, worst business in the world. What is it, like $3,000 on Spotify for 1 million streams? Sounds okay, but the only problem is there's only like 2, 3, 4% of the entire Spotify catalog that even reaches 1 million streams. So there's no business model there. So the two things you can sell as an artist today is the relationship and the experience, right? So now we have a tool set where we can actually create those experiences into them. Because what's great about an NFT is it's programmable. You can gamify them. The greatest storytelling device that's ever come along. Access gating. There's so much power in it. And everybody asks me this question, what's an NFT? I said, anything can be an NFT. It's basically a technology where you're clamping this contract with this little robot network over here that handles all the rights and roles and permissions for that asset. So I can now build an asset and I can go hand it to somebody else. They can build on top of it. I can take my royalties. You can build incredible business models on top of these things. And I'm making a prediction. I believe everything will start to become NFT. I don't care if you're a clothing store or a yoga salon or anything, because once people start to realize the power of scarcity, access control, the things you can do with this technology is extraordinary. So I'm like I said, right now I believe the artist opportunity is really about, it's not about going large, it's about going small and building a hive. Everything is about building a hive around your super fans. Your super fans, we know now because we have access to the data, is roughly 60% of your revenue. Your super fans are 1 to 3% of whoever you have. Your most revenue is going to come from them. Those are the people that really care the most. Now with the ability to use NFTs as loyalty and be able to actually build something to give to your fans that they can go resell later on. Like, imagine if you're an artist right now and you're coming up in the business, you got your fans, they buy your NFTs, you turn into you too. They're all happy because they win too. So this is the time where you can actually start using your audience to build with you and grow together. This is a crazy time, and this technology, I mean, it's one of the most powerful things I've ever seen. So yeah, it's crazy. And I've got artist friends that are killing it. And I'm going to tell my one story real quick, and then I'll get off. I always tell this story, and I tell it, everybody that's ever seen me always sees this story. I went to an NFT meetup, and there was a 19-year-old girl that got up. She says she's a photographer. She says, I'm a photographer. I love photography. I get up every day, and I shoot photography. I got into NFTs 9 months ago, and she says, I'm so happy now because I live 100% off my NFTs. I pay my rent, I pay my car payment, and then she said, by the way, I also carved off a piece of the smart contract for my community center. And she says, they've already gotten 2.5 ETH. And at that time, it was $10,000. So I ask you, how many 19-year-old young ladies that nobody knows building art can actually build a business with this and give $10,000 to their community center? This is powerful stuff. This is the power to the people, man. This is the people's movement.
Do you think that Scott took a single breath during that?
I'm trying to talk back. We only got 25 minutes.
We've learned he can hold his breath underwater for 4 minutes. Diana, I see you want to jump in.
Yeah, absolutely. To add on to what Scott said, I completely appreciate your enthusiasm for it. And yeah, so at World of Women, what we do is that we've realized in hearing in communities that this space is really good at reducing opportunity barriers and really narrowing this opportunity gap. And through partnerships, we've learned that, especially through early adopters, they've learned that the audience, they're not consumers, but they're actually creators and owners. So we're able to curate within our community artists to actually create a one-of-one, for example, masterpiece for FC Barcelona that got auctioned off for $400,000 Canadian. So imagine our community member, Ree, who was the artist behind this, she got a share of this, and it's one way for us to give and receive back to the community. So it's just there's so many avenues.
There was a comment you had made earlier, Tiffany, that I'd like to go back to around the phygital type of use cases, and perhaps we could have you chime in as well. If you could maybe walk the audience through an example that you've seen where that's been executed really well.
Yeah, so I think right now a lot of brands want to step into Web3, and they're going to have to work with artists who already have a fan base in Web3 so that they have the credibility, and when they partner with them, they'll be able to get that audience and reach a wider net of audience to kind of establish a presence there. So what we've seen, a good example is our partner Legitimate. They recently partnered with Puma and Rock Nation, creating these shoes that have NFT chips on them, and when you scan them, they have a mixtape, back in the day, mixtape for side A and side B on each shoe. So having that experience, not only can they showcase new technology, they are able to extend that customer engagement after the purchase. So after the purchase, they can scan, they can add new features into the actual NFT chip and update it whenever they want, just because they can always update the smart contract. So that's a very easy step for people to learn about Web3, but they don't even know that they're doing it, because Puma and a lot of brands nowadays, they won't even mention Web3. It's just a digital experience for them. So that's a good example of where brands are going. Even if you're not hearing NFTs as much in the news anymore, it doesn't mean they're not being utilized in a lot of brands today.
Yeah, actually, as you're talking about sneakers, it reminded me, it's a great example of phygital, is this app called Steppen, where they created this move to earn movement where you buy digital sneakers, but then you walk and it tracks your walking distance, number of steps and all that, and you earn some coin doing that. So there's one good example. And then for me, I think you're kind of touched on that. It's like people talk about the Web3 and then the real world as if it's two different things. And for me, it's Web3 is as real and in many cases more real than the so-called real world, right? And part of our mission is to bridge that gap in people's perception. This is why what we're doing with the pop-up galleries, as you can see here at the Futurist, and now opening the permanent digital gallery where people can actually interact and engage with digital art and the Web3 in the real world, right? So.
I was going to just say, I believe, too, the phygital world is where it's at. I can just tell you with our platform, Loot8, which we just launched, you can go to loot8.io and you can check out what we're doing, because we're seeing this world, a physical world. Our app is alive. It's based. The idea is I can bring my physical world, bring you into the digital world, and we tie digital goods together in an experience-based kind of marketplace. I think that's the next thing. People want to, I think, having events that they can go to, having drops, and then if also the power is, as I go to an event, when I leave the event, then what happens? So we have the opportunity to keep that engagement going on. And kind of jumping on your thing, now you can take an object, a piece of stuff, and you can add utility to something that's already there, creating the value of something. I might have this painting that's worth $1,000, but I add a bunch more utility on the top of it, now it's worth $5,000. So the opportunity to take objects, NFT them with experiences, changes the game because it allows us to bundle things together that can be very unique experiences. And one of the most powerful things is the access gating, the basically control of who has access and things. And I think that's one of the areas really good, and it ties into the physical world, because physical events can be NFT too, right? So everything gets NFT'd.
I like your comment there around the token providing access, which opens up the whole world of e-commerce and token gating. Diana, maybe you can speak to some of the types of experiences that you've seen in the World of Women community related to that. I mean, I know I've been to at least one of your galas in Miami, which is fun.
Thank you. Yeah, so World of Women, we're like a community membership-based. And one of the blessings of NFTs is that you can token gate that and can really, as a form of data tracking, know who are your most loyal members, holders who are still following. And despite all the noise that's happening, Twitter or X, Instagram, and even Discord, it's a lot of the partnerships that we have just get drowned. So we hear from community members and who are professionals who are not always online, how can we follow up and stay up to date? So we're actually in the beta release of our patio. It's a token-gated platform where our community members can sign on and see the latest of the partnerships, and also having an opportunity for them to connect with branded partners like Cloudy Bay, which is a Moet Hennessy brand. And another way was that we have a partnership with Nicole Richie's House of Harlow, and community members could token gate and get a discount for it. So it's really a way for us to market and reward our members for supporting us and really getting us to the stage where we are a trusted brand in this place. And we know that trust can be easily lost in Web3. And for us to have this trust, these brands are continuing to partner with us, and we're strategically thinking of ways to find more ways to innovate through this technology.
And the recipients are willing recipients of said marketing. So as we shift into our last 5 minutes, I would love to open the floor to the panel to share with the audience what else is brewing in the NFT, in the digital asset ownership space that is beneath the surface, that the iceberg proverbially over the ocean, that perhaps folks haven't crossed paths with, still brewing.
On the artist side, I think, Scott, you touched on this, like NFT is the technology, and you can almost do anything, and you can create the utility, you can create the membership benefits, you can give value more to your early collectors and different things. For example, dynamic NFTs, where your NFT changes over time, so it's not set in stone, it's not a final product, but depending on different things, whether it's data from real world or whatever you want as an artist, the possibilities are endless. And I think the NFTs are only 5 years old, maybe, like in the big sense. So we're gonna see a lot of innovation happening, and I think the way artists are gonna use this technology is we're gonna be surprised time and time again. So I'm really looking forward to that. We're just starting, and for us, we're just creating the opportunities and for artists to expose their art more, to bring more people, more eyeballs to the art, and I believe the digital art is going to take its rightful place more and more so. Of course, traditional art is not going anywhere. It's never either or. It's always like we're building this together, and like you said earlier, no matter what market conditions we're in, the builders keep building, and I think the future is bright for the artists.
I think something I'd like to touch upon, just because this year it seems like, one, Web3 is in a bear market, but two, AI has really resurfaced again. And I think that AI and blockchain and NFT are a perfect match, just because with new technologies and AI being created every single day, I think especially for artists and content that's created, there needs to be provenance in terms of those creations, and being able to make sure that it's traced back to the right artists, the right people. So it's a great pair where AI can create all these new technologies, but blockchain is kind of like the base to track everything long term.
I really need that. I'm actually in the process of creating an AI avatar version of me, so you can ask Ileana and ask the digital version of Ileana. What we haven't figured out yet is, how do we control that?
That part.
Oh, that part.
We saw what happened with the first girl that went and did that, right? She didn't know she was in the porn business. Yeah, I think for me the most exciting thing that's happening is I think the tech is getting down to the point now where anybody, Web 2 people, will now start to be entering this. The word NFT, unfortunately, got a bad name and makes people go crazy. If they understood what it was, we wouldn't have that. But I think that's going to go away, and platforms are going to now make it very simple. Then anybody can just log on, use an email, get in the game, have these assets. I think the most powerful thing is I think we're going to be able to empower all kinds of people now that never had a shot. Because when you think of digital ownership, something that's owned, that has value, I don't have to have physical goods. I get to be in the game with digital goods. And I agree, I think the AI is going to come on in ways to help serve people, and at the same time, I'm scared to death of it. But that's another whole story. We could go down that rabbit hole if you like. But I think for me, it's really what we're going to see is how it's going to empower people that never had a shot at things, and we're going to do that. And I'm telling you, that's a big part of what we're doing at Loot 8 because we want the people to win. And this is a great way to collaborate with people, own stuff. I build something, I give it to you, you build on top of it, go take 90% of the money, give me my 10, and we're all good. So I think we're going to start to see businesses and business models come onto these things as this tech is getting easier and easier.
And as well, we are seeing lots of opportunities in the sports and fashion industries. So sports, for example, you could be a big fan of, I'll use the example of FC Barcelona, but you might be based in China or in Kenya, but you can't really attend those games physically. So there's an opportunity for metaverse opportunities, and also with AI, like Tiffany had mentioned, it also makes that learning curve easier to get into the space.
I just wanted to say something about sports. I think that's an incredible place. That's actually one of the places we're focusing on in the NIL space, name, image, likeness, to go support the college students, the students in a way because they don't have access. Through NFTs now, they can actually generate revenue. They could be lifetime revenue because of the royalties and stuff they can do. Perfect way to pair artists and brands and all these things together to support. So I'm agreeing. Sports girl, you go girl. We're on the same page.
Thank you. And then the last bit about fashion is, for example, designers traditionally would not necessarily know who their clientele is, and having these digital NFC chips, they're able to track which clients have bought their merchandise and then be able to maybe develop more creative loyalty opportunities.
Perfect, and we are pretty much at time. Thank you so much for joining. I think what's so cool about the NFT space is that it's at the intersection of a couple of trends that are so deeply human, and they're not going anywhere. The desire to create, the desire to own assets, the desire to be part of community, the desire to interact with others. So the NFT space is certainly not dead, and bright future ahead. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
A big thank you to our enthusiastic panelists.